So one thing is actually, I realized that, and I more than you can say in current my experience, around 500, 600 plus interviews I've taken. So interacted with multiple my managers and you can say different HRs as well. And also I have taken interviews still as a consultant also for some of the companies for senior people and mid-level people, not for freshers actually. So I have realized, so there are basically a different people. So different companies and different person has a different expectation, right? So when we are talking about, let's say I have my own expectations, right? So there are some other people have a different expectations, right? So when we are talking about expectations, so some of the people are looking for, okay, this guy should be having this much knowledge. Some of these saying that maybe some of the 50% technical, 50% on management, other support kind of skills, that is completely okay. Some of the people are saying, okay, if he knows that he should be very strong in Java or scripting or something like that, but apart from that he should have a good communication and teamwork skills like that. Some of these guys say, so there is a different level of expectations. Okay, so when we are talking about different level of expectations, correct? So these expectations are basically, there is a written communication. What is basically we are talking about actually something called as particularly a job profile. So maybe you must have got that job profile very early, right? So in some certain cases, you will see there are a different type of job profiles, maybe for some certain roles for DevOps or for developers and for different people, right? So that is a basically a written job profile. But apart from that, there is a different people has a different expectations hidden, right? Because let's say if you are hiring, so maybe if you are already having a 16-year plus experience, if you are hiring, you will have some certain experience, correct? Or expectations from a person. If I will hire a one person in my team, maybe for DevOps, maybe for developer as a lead, or maybe as a developer, or maybe as a tester or whatever, so I will have some different expectations. So I will say, okay, I need a hardcore developer person, should be very much strong into technology. So because I basically expect that the person should be work independently or maybe some other ways like that. So I will check this kind of a knowledge in from different side. Some of the people are like who are taking as a maybe in service-based companies, you will see there are not too much technical. So not too much technical means they are not, that interview level is not very high, correct? So but if you will go in the same time for 3 year 4 year plus into an investment banks and product based company, you will see the level of interviews little bit very high. So they go into too much deep inside because these people have their own technical standards, and if these guys are very much highly in technical, they expect the people like them. Okay, so these things basically we need to understand when we are going for an interview. So we should be very much prepared for that, actually, in which side we are going for an interview. Correct. So ideally is if you are preparing at very high level, right? Let's say if you are preparing for UPSC exam, maybe you are able to clear some other government exams as well. Correct. So the idea is basically when we are talking about if you will prepare for any interview for into an IT industry, especially for investment bank and product based companies like that, you will be able to clear the interviews easily if you in the service based companies. Because in the because I have worked into service based companies as well, so the expectation will not be very high, right? Some certain cases, maybe if there are a very sound technical people or technical, you can say, in that case, you will be basically, particularly in that case, you will see it's a little bit higher level of interview. Otherwise, basically, you can just see that particularly a little moderate level kind of an interview. So it depends on the company to company. Okay, so company to company, the expectation kind of an work, kind of a responsibility will be getting changed. If you will go, I am just trying to tell you product-based companies, and if you will talk about startups, have a very different expectation. A startup, they are saying you have to do so many things, not only developer, you have to work as a interact with the client, you have to work with interact with multiple other peoples like stakeholders, you have to do deployment, you have to so multiple things you need to do it. And maybe people, you have to be very much well prepared for releases and support, and maybe you have to do a work maybe 10 hour plus or 12 hours plus or something like that. It's a very dedicated kind of work. So the expectation is little different. So whenever you go for an interview, or maybe HR anytime call you, they will clearly say that, okay, this is a startup. So do you know that what is a startup culture, and do you still want it to continue or something like that? Because the ownership will be little hard side. And but these startups are paying also really high, so they will always pay more than other companies. If you are talking about particularly service based companies, also it's a more than that. So startups paying really very good. And another thing is that there is another plus point is that you will also get that so much learning into in startups. And startup people, if you will claim that I worked into this startup and I have take this startup at this level, or maybe during that development phase I was there and this much things I have developed, when you represent to something yourself, in that case also what we can say, particularly, so it has a very different expressions. And when you are explaining to these things, right, so there will not be any too many questions technically, because you have a hands-on, you are already willing to work, and you have put really good effort. So some of these guys, in one of my manager was normally asking some little different level questions, right? So one round is, let's say, technical. So I told you, so technical, you will have a different kind of a technical questions at different level. And another thing I can tell you, so if you are talking about these guys, these are investment banks, product based companies. Actually in investment banks, they have a very well prepared people who are taking an interviews. So there are a particular certain types of trainings to interviewers, how to take an interview, right, and how to ask the question and how to rate. So these guys are not like a normal people or anybody they pick up to take up an interview. So they are really well prepared, and they are actually going through some trainings, and after that they will be certified to take an interviews. Okay, so that is a basically. And another thing is that people generally they take an interview who has a really good image in the account or in front of that managers and other people. Correct. So these are the things basically you need to just keep in mind. So whenever you go for an interview, think first, are you basically really willing to work into these companies, or do you still wanted to go for this profile? So first check the profile, check the responsibilities, and then go. Maybe in 3 to 5 years, 6 year experience, up to 6 years, 7 years experience, it's okay. But more than 7, 8 years, you check the profile. How is this a kind of a tech lead or what individual contributor? Some of the people are worked as an individual contributor, so they are not comfortable to work as a tech lead. But let's say in some of the companies, they are saying, okay, 80% you have to work as an individual contributor, and 30% you have to work as a tech lead. So what are the roles and responsibility when we are talking about, especially for basically tech leads? So you need to help to a team. So you have to be willing to and help to a particularly team, and how to interact and how to solve the people so problems, right? And if you will, somebody will come to you, so how you will debug and how you will solve, how you will give suggestions, how you will represent the teamwork into a particularly in front of the managers, right? When you are working with attending any meetings with the senior management, how you are representing, maybe if you are going to a client side, and if you are attending to a meeting with the client, so how you are representing. So these many things are basically you need to understand based on the profile to profile. And if you are interact to a multiple other stakeholders, then also you need to basically understand these many things. Correct. These same questions will be asked to actually with your in interviews also, how you have managed the project, how you have you interacted with client or not. So if you have interacted with client, then definitely you can answer. If you haven't interacted with client, then you can say. So individual contributor, tech lead, project lead, these kind of a different profiles. So you need to understand that. So technicality you need to understand. Definitely in Java, if you are basically working into a Java, especially if you are talking about a minus stack or any other, you should be, if you are working as a 5 year 6 year plus, you should be completely should have a good understanding at least for full stack technologies. So full stack technologies, they will ask for maybe some certain questions from Java, some certain questions from Spring Boot, some certain questions from JP Hibernate, some certain questions for DevOps, some certain, so different questions like that. In DevOps also, if you are a little bit senior person, so questions level will be little high, maybe for different technologies, Kubernetes, Docker, AWS, maybe especially for some other particularly a different. So in Angular also in different side like that. If you are get hired for UI developer, so UI developer has some different expectations like that. Correct. So especially for maybe performance engineering, right? Or maybe monitoring, these are some NFR related questions also can be asked, so you need to be prepared for NFR. So I have also prepared some certain, you can say, in only interview questions videos I have prepared. I have guess uploaded into a course or also in my YouTube channel for Java especially. So for Java full stack, or maybe core Java, or maybe also I guess for microservices as well. So some of these you can refer for that, some standard questions especially for transaction management, right? Different type of microservices patterns, Spring Boot, multiple things they can ask for. Java, you can say core concepts and many such, Java 8, Java 9, these concepts can be asked here. Apart from that, if you will see, so there are some technical questions, list of technical questions, you can get it. Otherwise, there are a multiple other side. In Node.js, there is a different side of particular questions. In DevOps, there is a different type of how you have set up the CI/CD, how you implement that particular DevOps into an AWS, or maybe GCP, or maybe Azure, or what is the Kubernetes, different questions, different objects for Kubernetes, what is the deployment, and there are many such other things. Terraform they can ask for, Docker they can ask for, so many other things, how to create a file, what are the basic commands. So you, if you are, but idea you can explain and answer any particular domain in any technology if you are a hands-on. Correct. And nobody wants that kind of a manager type of people. So just be, keep in mind that don't just go with some theoretical knowledge, because here and there, if you know that okay, somebody else can prepare the Docker file, okay, so but if you don't know the commands and what are the basically syntax of a basic Docker files, so how you will represent that, and then what is the command to build image and how to deploy, particularly run the image like this. So you should have a hands-on. So if you are really fight for a technical side, but if you are a non-technical people, maybe if you are, let's say, in for particularly if you are talking about in some other domain, maybe for testing or recruitment or any other side, in that case you have to be a very much specific for a domain also. Some of the times you can also, people can ask for domain specific questions. If you are really good at into a payments, really good for particularly you can say into a banking domain, so people are also looking for who has a good experience into technology and good experience into a domain. So try to get good hold on the domain as well, right? So because maybe from testing it's a really very important, BA it's a very really very important, database, if you are working as a database developer, domain knowledge is very much important. Even developer side also very much. E-commerce domain people are looking, have you done work into an e-commerce domain? So because you know that how the e-commerce functionality works, what are the basically different fields are there, so you will be much better develop that application, much better to understand the technical functional requirement, and you can implement it. So these many things are basically you need to understand that. So domain knowledge, maybe you can go for some certifications, try to increase your knowledge day by day, read some much more things about that. Or maybe when you look for or check for any site, you see that how the site works. If you are planning to design this kind of site, how you can think like this. Or maybe you start thinking like this, or any site you can pick it up and then try to think how it can be developed, how it can be solved here. These kind of some of the problems you can think about it. So there is a develop in AWS side also, these many kind of things you can understand that basically what is the cloud computing, what are the different type of services. So there is a different segment for, if you are talking about analytics, they have a different services, they have a database, they have a different services, for storage they have a different services, for compute they have a different services. Then they will ask for some other things, actually what are the things they need to basically different kind of questions related to Lambda, or maybe some of the basic questions related to S3, some of the questions related to DevOps, or some of the questions related to code pipeline, or many such other things. So it depends on that. Are you going to apply for AWS DevOps? Are you going to apply for AWS Solution Architect? Or are you going to apply for AWS Developer? So there will be questions for a developer level. Solutioning, so they will ask for a solutioning level kind of a questions. How you are making the solution for e-commerce application. So what are the pros and cons if you will do like this, if you will do like that. So there is a, they will give a problem they can ask. So multiple things. So basically you need to be basically make sure that how you are just putting up. So for that also you need to have a good hands-on. and you have to make your hands little dirty, then only you will be able to answer the questions little better. So that is the basically which we are talking about, little technical side, right? So you have to be willing to learn and willing to upgrade your skills, right? Always. So maybe 3 4 months or 6 months you can prepare for it, and then you can basically apply for that particularly what we can say role. Like if you are switching the role or if you are applying fresh to a role, if you are already into a same domain or into a same technology, so you can upgrade. Maybe you can do some POCs or maybe ask for your managers and take that new code or something like that, and you can do it. So this kind of things basically you can just do it, and you have to basically also give a confidence to your managers and maybe interviewers level, so you can do it. So first thing, you need to make your hands dirty and try to get that good work. If you are really getting a work onto a basically latest technology, so much better you can represent it, and it is a very easy because you are already confident. Correct. But in some certain cases, if you are not able to get, then still you can learn from your own or maybe from some other things like that, reference materials, and then you can upgrade your skills and then you can represent it. Correct. So ultimately, you have to learn the things and then basically just be in positive side, right? So because earlier that market was giving us so much hike and so many things, now this market situation is completely different. Correct. So it is no need to be panic about it. But if you are really basically a good developer or good architect or good senior manager or basically any particular profile, so it doesn't matter at all for particularly what type of market is currently it is, right? You will still getting so much opportunities, and then you will be getting hired here. So this is a basically, I'm just trying to tell you that how you can basically apply and what should be the thought process. And when we are going for an interview, basically now another thing is that there are at the mindset level. So if you are talking about at the mindset level, okay, so that is also playing very important role.